So good morning everybody and welcome to the Expert Talk series which Ecoparadigm has recently started, and with our mantra that learning never ends. So my name is Shailaja Rangarajan. I'm the lead corporate communication here, and if you're watching this on YouTube, please give it a like, because I know by the end of it I'm sure you're going to like this video, and also please subscribe to this channel. So on today's Expert Talk series, we have Shailaja Rangarajan, the founder of the company Reimagined. I got the name right. Okay. This is also a very special talk because we are having it offline after ages. So Shailaja and I go back nearly a decade when we were part of a citizens action group, and we were also together in a solid waste management voluntary group. So at that time, she was in the corporate sector, and she was a supply chain process expert, defining and optimizing the processes for global companies and organizations. So when we met, she was in an apartment where they had actually put up, no wet waste was going out, and they had put up a beautiful composting structure. And there was so much of compost being produced that I think most of Whitefield could survive on the amount. And so that was rather remarkable. So it was this and the other ground level work that she was doing which gave her the insight to realize the criticality of conscious consumption or conscious consumerism. And this has led into the formation of a company called Rimagined, which I'm sure she will talk about in detail. I don't have to say it. And so, in short, Shailaja is now an entrepreneur. Do you call yourself a social entrepreneur? I don't know. But yes, she is an entrepreneur or in the circular economy. So, according to the Indian Textile Journal, I was just researching that more than 1 million tons of textiles are thrown away every year. Shailaja, you can correct me later if I'm wrong. And most of it comes from household sources. So at Ecoparadigm, we are also very interested in material recovery, and I think the students will also be going to a facility, a material recovery facility. So I'm sure they will find this talk extremely interesting, and they will be curious to learn about your journey and experience. So on behalf of Rimagined KP, Managing Director, Ecoparadigm, and all of us here, we welcome Shailaja to speak with us. And I hope everybody's got a pen and pad, and you are going to ask some very good questions. It's going to be an interactive session. So we have an expert here, so make the most of it. Thank you, and Shailaja.
Thank you, Sangeeta, and thanks to everyone for this warm welcome. I'll start with a disclaimer. I'm no expert. Okay? So, as Sangeeta said, right, my journey actually in the space of waste started around 2012, right? Yeah. When we started doing waste segregation in our apartment complex and doing in-house composting and all. Those were the initial days when not many were talking about composting, etc., even in Bangalore. It was a law that kind of made a mandate for everybody to think on those lines. And that was when I met Sangeeta, who was driving the waste management work for a citizen volunteer group. And then she reached out to me saying if we can work together to kind of help other communities also to look at segregation, composting, etc. So from part-time volunteer, after I quit my corporate job, it became a full-time voluntary work where I also started working along with the local municipality. Where I realized, okay, at my household level, I segregate the waste, I compost waste and all. Then at the community level, segregation happens. Some of the households do in-house composting, some because of lack of space, hand it over to the municipality, etc. And then where does it go? That's where the journey began. when I started working with the local municipality, I realized there's a huge lack of infrastructure because the growth spurt happened without the back-end infrastructure and planning being laid in advance. Because the tendency is always to be reactive to a problem than being proactive to a probable issue that can come up. Because that's how the human temperament is. Like, I fix what is needed now, but that fix, what is the impact going ahead? Maybe 5 years or a decade or even a couple of generations down the line. And then when I saw those landfills and unmanageable waste and oh, we are setting up a dry waste collection center, but what is that capacity going to be like? Right? When you talk at a city level, how much infrastructure are we even talking about to handle that volumes? That kind of made me a little uncomfortable and started thinking, are we even looking at a solution in the first place? It just seemed more like, I'm just cleaning up my house, I'm just passing the buck. So, in management parlance, right, there's this Bible, I would call, that book is called, if you can read it, because that will apply to any line that you work in, okay? It's called The Goal, right? So what happens is, when you are solving a problem, what we usually tend to do is, we just kind of, whatever is a bottleneck in the process, we fix that. Is the problem getting solved? No. The bottleneck gets shifted to the next phase of the process. Solutions are always thought through in silos, which is where most of the solutions falter. So what happens is, unless and until in the entire chain there is no bottleneck, the flow is never going to be seamless, right? And that's what I realized, that we are looking at solutions in bits and pieces. There are two approaches to any problem solving. Like when you look at it from a top-down approach, where you look at a big problem, you break it down into small manageable portions and try solving those, which is a very good approach. Say amidst us, we take up one very big problem and like I take up part A, part B, part C, we break it up. Each one of us, we focus on it and fix it. But when is the solution going to be successful? When we place all these parts together again, because the picture is bigger, right? The problem is bigger. Only when they are coming together seamlessly are we really addressing the problem, right? My part A works beautifully in whatever constraints and scenarios that I have thought in my head. Your solution works beautifully in isolation again. Your solution works beautifully in isolation. But are we solving the problem? That is, we'll get the answer only when all these jigsaw puzzles come together and sit seamlessly. And that's exactly where I felt, talking about waste segregation, talking about setting up dry waste collection centers, talking about lack of infra for recycling, everything, they're all solutions in silos. The problem is much bigger than that. What is the grassroots of the problem? Why are we even generating so much waste? Right? The problem, as long as we are dumping and dumping and dumping, how much infra can we even build? Okay, 10 recycling plants, 100 recycling plants, people always talk about scalable solutions. Yes, it has to be scalable because the source of where the waste is getting generated, it seems to be infinite, it's just coming out more and more and more. So you're talking about solutions, the capacity has to be on par with this, if not more. And the rate at which we are generating the waste is growing at geometric progression, right? Look at the capacity building that will be needed to handle these volumes. All these things kind of got me thinking, are we really even addressing the true problem? For me, I felt the problem is with generating that kind of waste itself. Unless and until we touch the root of an issue, we are not really talking about solutions, we are talking about fixes. The difference between a solution and a fix is, fix will always show you short-term impact, but not long-term sustainability. When we talk of solution, we're talking about answers which are addressing any problem in the long term. And solutions always take time to get implemented because you're talking of a long-term impact, long-term sustainability. So that is where, so for me it was a very simple look back saying, how was my childhood, how am I living now? So for me it was personal change, personal consumption process altered, I cut down, because even in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we talk about the basic needs and then it becomes an aspirational. So it's a pyramid. Each consumer goes through that from basic needs to aspirational living.
What is the pyramid you talk about?
Maslow's hierarchy of needs. That applies to everything again, right? So when we start earning, we are looking at getting a job and becoming independent. Basic. From there, we all go up the pyramid to aspirational living, right? That's what consumerism is all about. Good or bad, again, it's all a double-edged sword. We talk of progress, we talk of development, we talk of economy growing, GDP growth, all this come together. We cannot do without it. So how can we consume without really creating this Frankenstein monster we already have created? It's just altering the pattern of consumption. Because as we are consuming, it's not just the waste that is getting dumped, there's also the virgin resources that we are over-consuming. That's why we have the overshoot day, right? It was what? Last year, July? So every year you will see it's actually getting advanced. That means we are using up our yearly quota of resources within half a year. How have we stopped consuming for the remaining half? No. What are we doing? We are dipping into the future resources. And that's where the alarm bells should go off for everybody, right? And that's where the problem lies. So I realized that it's not just handling the waste, it's also the consumption which needs to be altered. Then I changed my lens, the way I look at anything that is discarded. I didn't see it as waste, I saw a lot of value in it. Why are we dumping at that rate, right? So the kind of things that got dumped, I saw a lot of value in it. I said, today the nice term to talk about it is circular economy. Loop. Avoid using virgin resources. See how you can reuse and extend the lifetime of a material. We are not living in an ideal world where people can say, I won't consume. What we need are practical solutions. You can consume, but you know what? Without really needing as much of virgin resource as we are using today, and you just don't need to dump. And that's what Reimagined is all about, where we are talking of extending the lifetime of any material that gets dumped. So today's discussion is primarily around textile waste, right? So I'll just throw out some facts at you for you to visualize the volume of this problem. Okay? So thanks for the whiteboard. I really scribbled a lot. So industry today, right? What we are talking about is the global industry is a $4.5 trillion industry is what we are talking about. This is the textile industry, global industry today, when we talk of textiles. And this industry contributes to 10% of pollution. Overall global pollution that we're talking about is this. This is the second most polluting industry in the world today, textile industry. Okay? And if you talk about the production capacities, how it has just grown. Between 2000 to 2015, in a span of 5 years, this industry has actually doubled. Just 5 years, and this industry has just doubled. This is the textile industry we're talking about, right? And if we translate this in terms of the consumption, this is from a producer's point of view. Let's look at it from our consumer's point of view. Every year, You know how much textiles we are consuming? 62 million tons is what we as consumers are consuming.
It's global, is it?
It's a global. Unfortunately for India, we really don't have statistics for any waste or any industry which is there. So a lot of research papers and all are there for US and Europe and even Australia. But for India, if you dig down, you don't get the details. The statistics is not that clear. The reason also might be because we have a huge informal sector operating in the back end, which is also a blessing in disguise for us, right? Since for the West, it's a very formalized sector, whereas for India, it is a very, very informal sector. So to really get proper statistics is not easy. Not impossible, but not easy, right? And today, when we talk about this 62 million, right? By 2030, you know what it is projected to be, or what the consumption of this? 102 million tons is what we will, as consumers, will be consuming. That is the volume of textiles that we are taking in. Okay, so what does that mean? So we are buying more and more and more. Very logical reason. Very nice. So why is it a problem of waste today there? If it's just the consumption part of it, that alone is not a problem, right? The problem is the rate at which we are also disposing of every garment. As consumers, the rate at which we are disposing. So that means twice as much of clothing will get discarded. Say for instance, in Europe we have these stats. Earlier, people would spend maybe 5% of their income, would spend 30% of their income on clothing. Now their consumption has gone multi-folds. But you know how much they are spending? Not even 5%. So how is it that I'm buying more but I'm spending less? How is that possible?
Incomes have increased.
Sorry?
Their incomes have increased so much.
Incomes have increased, the prices have
Slashed.
Everything has gone.
Production is not more,
That is what is fast fashion.
So what do we mean by fast fashion is, earlier, any design, it's okay, leave it. Earlier, any design that was created, maybe I wanted it for statistics here. Earlier, the key to any design was, there was nothing called a seasonal design. So any brand would launch a collection, and till the demand for those designs waned away, a new design would never come in. Now, what fast fashion has done is, I'm going to create a demand for you, right? Every season, the number of, usually the very big labels have around 6 to 8 collections every year. So does it mean for every collection I'm actually creating fewer garments? No. I still create the same number of garments. For every collection I'm going to create that. And I'm going to push it down the supply chain through my retailers till it reaches the end consumers. And then I'll make you consumers feel, oh, you need to catch up with us. You are not wearing the latest. So what happens, the human psychology is, I don't want to be left behind. I want to be seen wearing the latest. But this is the in thing today. You go, buy the in thing today, 2 months you turn around, oh, I saw you wearing the same thing earlier. This is what fast fashion is all about, where I as a manufacturer will create a need, a desire, and a market where you want to look the latest. That's what fast fashion is all about. Now there are some global brands that are talking about becoming sustainable, say, oh, we will no longer have 8 collections every year, we will talk about 6 collections every year. That's their way of saying we are becoming sustainable, right? So there is a huge, desperate need for creating a market for big brands to survive, but at the same time, there's a lot of focus even on the textile waste, the waste that is getting generated. And if you talk about the textile waste that gets dumped in the world today, right? You have a fully loaded garbage truck. Now imagine an entire truck loaded with textile waste. That gets dumped every second globally now. That's the volume of textile waste we are coping with. And when we talk of textile waste, the usual perception is, oh, it's always at the consumer end. What if I tell you that the waste is created across the supply chain? 25% of textile waste is created at the manufacturing level, not at the consumer level. So what are we talking about? So when you talk of the entire supply chain for textile, you have fabric makers, the garment makers, right? And then that gets into the main stitching, the manufacturing, garment stitchers, right? Then comes the, now after that we have, if you talk about the supply chain, right? Your first step is always the fabric. And then comes your garments. Now these garment makers, they supply to multiple brands. And these brands operate through their retail, and this goes to the end consumer, that is you, right? This is this entire chain. Now, when we talk about waste, usually we talk about waste here, right? This is my waste. Now, let me draw a line here. When you talk of textile waste as a pre-consumer waste, as a post-consumer waste, what we guys generate is the post. How about the waste here? 3. These brands wanting to create, wanting to up their top line and also have amazing bottom lines. This is where fast fashion is driven. These guys decide what gets into the market, how frequently I dump things in the market. At the same time, if it's not sold here, there's a mandate given to them, dump it. Did you guys know there's a shelf life for denim, for jeans?
Yeah.
Yeah, there is.
About denim I didn't know, but definitely the other stuff.
Denim also has shelf life. Because what is fashion in denim? Give me a break. Still. Okay. So all the retailers are given a mandate. See, if I am the manufacturer, I'm the brand. For me, I am producing and I need to sell. Get it out of my warehouse. Get it to the shelves. And by the time, if these guys are not able to sell it at the rate that I want, I'm not going to stop my production. Clear those shelves, dump it. I'll push. And by the time, every time you visit the store, you see a new collection. That is the perfect bait for consumers. So there is a lot of pre-consumer waste that goes unaddressed. Nobody can visualize that this waste is not even spoken about. So when you talk about solutions, we should not talk about in silos. We should talk about the entire chain. From the time a fabric is created, tons get generated here because of quality, right? You and I look at it, we can't even make a worse applying it, okay? I have a certain grade of blue that I wanted for my fabric. It's maybe 1 degree off. It's rejected. garment. So many garment manufacturers come to me and saying, can you upcycle, we have tons of waste. How many tons are you talking about? I'm talking very small manufacturer here in Bangalore. 200 tons every month. And they're small. Small. I said 200 tons? Oh, we just created for only European brands. We don't sell that in India. Okay, and I was expecting maybe cut pieces and all that. We talk of this shirt. For sample, they sent me 50 pieces, which didn't have the sleeves. The reason being the buttons, maybe a couple of mm was wrong, maybe was not stitched perfectly. Garment manufacturers, that is the kind of waste. And then they've already cut the sleeves. What did they do with it? They can't stitch it up with another shirt. Dump it. Then you talk about the brand. So who is even driving all this? They are the major players who decide what is even flowing down this chain till here. And the bigger the brand, bigger my say. Right? I decide the trend. I decide the color of the year. I decide what you will be wearing. Right? And I will make you feel as if you're the king and queen because I said so, not because you feel so. That's what is all about brand. These guys decide what goes through my funnel to reach my customer. Okay? You have come, you have stitched exactly what I want. I go to the retail, it's there sitting on the retail shelves. I have my next collection coming out. Guys, clear out your shelves. Even there, the very big brands don't allow you to dispose it off. What do? You incinerate it because they are my designs. You incinerate that beautiful garment and fabric which has consumed millions and millions in tons of water and loaded with pesticides or whatnot. And I say, those are my designs. It should not go out of my purview to anyone else. See, if you talk of recyclers, upcyclers and all, right? We are not creating new resource. Already what is there, we see, oh, it's already created and it's not being put to use, let's put it to use, right? Recyclers at least, like they change the form. Like I shred the fabric, I pull out the yarn, I recreate the fabric, recycle the fabric. Upcyclers don't even do that. You give me the fabric as it is, I'll use it as it is so that I don't use more resources to alter it. The problem is, oh, that print is mine, the brand says. It's a digital print, give me a break. Oh, no, but that's my print. That print on that fabric is mine. So it cannot go there. Incinerate it. Crime. Right? Is there a policy governing that? There are no policies. There are policies being created to be around circular economy, but then they are at a very, very high level. I am doing a bottom-up approach here. Policy makers look at it from a top-down, right? So, there is no policy which is stopping anybody from altering the way that material is handled. You are talking of the pre-consumer waste till here. This is where the informal sector of India is a blessing in disguise, because we Indians have a knack of coming up with innovative solutions. So you will find many guys selling jeans without the label and all, right? Don't be surprised if there's also maybe a Levi's or a Calvin Klein there. So you might be it will be unbranded jeans. But trust me, amazing quality stuff, you'll still get it at $300.
But this whole thing about branding and non-branding, it's coming from the same workshop, and only the guy is putting his sharp, so to say, isn't it?
Exactly.
So, I mean,
No.
should be, amplified,
Why
that
is it-
knowledge.
Why is it thriving, Sangeeta? Because people like us look for brands, don't we? So till we as consumers don't ask, who will? Why should anybody? I place myself here as a brand. I will focus on my top line and bottom line because I am into a capitalist economy which is GDP driven. I will not like it if somebody just rips off the label and sells it at 500 bucks. I wear the hat of a brand. I think like that. Now I wear the hat of a person who is worried about environment, who is worried about minimalism, who is worried about my carbon footprint. I will say I will not even buy. I don't fit into my jeans. I would rather lose weight to fit into my jeans than go and buy a new pair, right? So till we as consumers start questioning, right? The unfortunate part is the human psychology. It's easier to get drawn towards a feel-good factor than be drawn towards something which is not very comfortable. For somebody who has, say, 8 to 10 pairs of jeans, every shade, every size or fit or whatever, bring it down to 2. Because denim is one of the most polluting fabric in the world. Right? 10 pairs, the latest fit to 2 pairs and with no fit. And I can't lose weight, I can't gain weight. That's the sad part about denim, unlike your sari. So,
there's also the thing about denim using a lot of water in each pair of jeans.
it's not just water, because since we work with denim, so denim is actually cotton fabric.
Is that car yours? No.
No, it's not. Denim is actually cotton. But how does it get that toughness, the roughness? Cotton is actually soft. How does it become this stuff? Denim actually becomes the stuff with all the chemical treatments. And you talk about distress jeans, that is much more distressing to the environment, right? So the process it goes through, we get tons of pre-consumer denim fabric from here. We work with it. The guy who is selling it will not tell us the brand. He just said, okay, hello, he opens the warehouse, piled up, we go pick up. He will not tell us which brand it is, he will not tell us what label, no. You're getting your fabric waste, right? You buy, go. And they are such soft, nice fabric. People are like denim waste, because the moment we talk waste, people only think about post-consumer waste. This is a big contributor. We need to crack this.
So when you said 62 million, does it include the whole thing or it's only the post-consumer? It's total waste?
This is the entire industry
Entire.
that, yeah.
What percentage is the post? What is the blue?
Well, at least the research says this is 25%, which I can bet is wrong. It is wrong. Because when you kind of multiply this, right, it's huge. That's the problem. Do we really have enough research data here? Because even when I started working, my focus was here, post-consumer. But when I just started going up the supply chain, I was shocked. And I can bet for sure this is not. I make a fabric, I reject it. I stitch a garment, I reject it. I am not able to sell, I reject it. Rejection at every stage. And today, the number of times we wear a garment is 1/3 of what we used to wear earlier. You buy one shirt, you just keep on wearing it till it tears, and maybe the button comes off, you stitch it back and hem it back and continue. Button has come off, throw it away. Right? How many shirts even do it? I don't even know if they have that spare button just stitched inside anymore. I don't know. Earlier that used to be there. Oh, the button broke off, you can always take out that spare button and put it back. But I don't think mending is even a way of life now. Right? So, there is wastage at every stage. And there is no one simple solution that addresses it all. That's why when I say when you talk of solutions, there should be a seamless fit across the supply chain. I'm not saying that one solution can be applied to everything. No, it can't be. Because the volumes we're talking about is unimaginable. You talk about recycling plants, right? And how many recycling plants can we even set up? So when you talk of recycling, when you talk of textile waste recycling, you're mainly talking about converting that fabric or the garment into, again, bringing it back to yarn and converting a new fabric. Very nice thought. But what is the kind of energy that we're going to consume to do that cycle, right? And in one of the retail stores, now everybody is, now the big thing is, we have recycled 12 PET bottles and this is your t-shirt. It's 100% recycled PET yarn. God save us if we get there, if that becomes the norm. Is that even a solution? Why do you think I'm saying that's not a solution? Or what do you think possibly? Sorry? 12 PET bottles, 15 PET bottles recycled into yarn and that becomes your t-shirt. Amazing solution, right? So you're not actually creating new textile fabric, right? It's waste being converted into, fine, it's actually good. We are a brand who use only 100% PET recycled fabric for our garments. Good or bad? What do you think?
Somewhere in between because
It's bad, man.
Why?
Well, this plastic also, like, the consumption will increase. If we increase the usage this side, the consumption will also increase from that side.
Consumption, anyway, there's much more than we can even recycle. Okay.
They are not producing
Shailaja,
bottle to make cloth.
is it the end of life issue about microplastics? Finally, I mean, it's not going to degrade.
Yeah.
It's
So what
going to be
happens
there.
is, the reason why we are also struggling to deal with textile waste is because of the type of textile waste we are ending up with, right? Earlier, we never had blended fabric. Now it's all blended. We cannot recycle that. When I say blended, then one or two different types of yarn are coming together, right? Pure cotton, perfect. Now we are talking about, like, you have the stretch fabric and all, that's not pure cotton, right? Some other element is coming in, right? The moment a fabric is created by blending yarns, we cannot recycle it. Then we say, no, we are 100% to PET recycled sweatshirts and all. We are saving the ocean. We are ensuring that there is no plastic that is reaching out to the ocean. We are routing all that and bringing it back. Nice. But then, also look at it this way. Every time you wash that garment, the amount of microfibers that you are releasing into your water bodies, the thing is it a visible problem? It's not, because we cannot see it. That's why when you talk of solutions, right, is it really a sustainable solution? That needs to be questioned. Now so many brands are actually piggybacking on this and say, we have launched a complete collection which is 100% recycled PET. So during the lifetime, when that garment and fabric reaches its end of life, how do we even deal with it? Right? So also need to look at the end of life of that solution. What will happen then? Have you thought about it? We have not. So textile waste, again, when you talk of solutions, you have to again wear multiple hats to challenge your own solution. Say, is this even practical? Is this truly sustainable, or is it a major greenwash? Right? So is there a single solution? So today we talk about recycled yarn, right? There are some good brands which do this amazing recycling. So unfortunately there is still no policy in terms of handling textile waste. Like now we do have many major garment manufacturers. They are so big now, they also dictate to the brands. Because these brands are dependent on them now. They have become so big, they cater to so many bigger brands. Say, we will decide what kind of fabrics we will even work with, what kind of production volumes we will even work with. We want to become zero waste. We will work with you only when you comply with our requirements. We are not going to dump. We have to get into those kind of agreements wherein, okay, I purchased this fabric for you, there are defects, but I'm not going to incinerate it. Unless and until you agree with me, I'm not going to stitch your garment for you. There are some major global players here, sitting here. Even in India, I won't take the names, sorry. Right?
What about designers? They also play a part. No?
Yes, designers play a major role. So in regular design, what happens is, again, as a designer, what am I contributing to? Am I part of the fast fashion band or am I part of the sustainability band? Two mutually exclusive, let's be very clear. Now there are many fast fashion brands who tag themselves as hashtag sustainable brands, but they are mutually exclusive. You can't keep consuming and say I'm sustainable, period. So as a designer, what happens is, designers also, other than the individual designers, but designers who are working for a brand, they are given a mandate about the new collection that needs to be launched. So they work within those constraints. Now they sketch it and they say, okay, this is the latest fabric, let's work with it. What is the value that designers can do is, what kind of designs do I even come up with, right? The problem with most of the things is again blended fabric. So can you push back and say, you know what, we should stop working with blended fabrics. We should stick to singular fabric, which also have a scope of recycling. Or even look at fabrics which are nature friendly. Maybe look at only those fabrics which are naturally dyed, right? Look at capsule collections. Rather than making 1,000 pieces of everything, make it all limited edition. Limited edition at the same time say, it's not going to last for 3 months. We will make stuff that are going to last for a year or even 2 years. And you should be able to flaunt it, right? Quality. That's where the push comes, quality over quantity. It's not quantity over quality. So unless and until, yes please.
I have a question. So, like you mentioned, one of the reasons for declining prices of garments is because companies are able to cut down on quality of those garments. And one of the reasons they can do that is because they pay minimum wage or below minimum wage
Yes.
to their workers.
Very true.
So there's a lot of worker exploitation in terms of their working conditions.
That's a major culprit.
So my question is, would strengthening labor laws at a policymaker level have some kind of ripple effect throughout the fast fashion industry?
See, lot of focus has come on child labor. Lot of focus has come on the minimum wages or fair wages, right? So there are brands who are fair trade certified and who believe in minimum wages and quality of working conditions, etc. At a policy level, say for instance, now again, no problem should be tackled in isolation. There are children working in a factory, I pull them out, I put them in a school. Nice. This came out in one more discussion in a different forum. So in a village, there were also children working and the mothers working. The new rule came, there should be no child labor. So when the audits happen and all, make sure there are no kids around. Good. Tick mark. This is a fair trade or whatever. They don't employ child labor. Then suddenly the number of HIV cases in that village shot up. What do you think can be the reason? What has HIV got to do with child labor?
I can't even hazard a guess.
Children were working in pathetic condition but contributing to family income. You have pulled out children because of your law. They will go to schools and all. Forget if there is even a school there. If I am a manufacturer who is employing child labor and then you say, you threaten me, I'll lose my license, I throw the children out. Fine, for me, my license. One income source for that family is gone. The mother got into prostitution.
Oh, shit.
To eat. They have to eat. Let's admit it, for these people, it's bringing food to the table. It's not a luxury. Let's realize that. We guys sitting in boardrooms can discuss, debate, come up with policies, rules and regulations. Can I place myself in those shoes of that lady whose child is working there? Will I want my 13-year-old working there? I as a mother will not want. Why is that mother wanting that? right? We live a life of luxury and privileges. So we can debate, we can argue, we can come up with policies and rules. But till the point these policies and rules, again as I say, should not be taken into consideration in isolation. We are creating a completely new problem. I have moved my bottleneck from here to another place. I have not solved the problem. You are addressing one, you have created a new problem. So yes, ethical wages, fair trade practices, good working conditions, financial security, job security, basic health care, minimum education. If you talk about SDG goals today, right, you will see they are all interconnected. One has an impact on the other. You cannot say, oh, I work on SDG 12. That's what upcycling, that's the work I do. Okay, now I choose to work ethically. I want to ensure that my team is fairly paid. I want to ensure they are rightly skilled. I want to ensure there is no discrimination. I don't care whether it's a Muslim or a lady or a guy working with me, it doesn't matter. Do you see the interconnect with the other SDGs?
Absolutely.
I want to ensure that my team got paid even during COVID when we were having zero sales. Job security, right? I want to ensure that they are paid better than the minimum wages. I'm tackling poverty there. And while we work, I want to make sure that those children, the parents who work with me, right, they go to school, irrespective of whether the child is a boy or a girl, gender equality, right? All the SDGs are interconnected. So when we talk of solutions, right, we need to be extremely cautious about saying, what is the cascading impact? There's always a ripple effect. Be very aware of that. We should never look at solutions in isolation. Unfortunately, that's how policies are made. Every solution is like sitting in an ivory tower. So we are addressing one, we are creating a different problem which we never even thought would be feasible. When I heard this issue, I was shocked. I'm like, oh my God. But that is the reality of society, and particularly for India, we cannot emulate the Western way of handling a situation because our ecosystem is completely different. The set of society issues, environmental issues, it's very, very different. So the solutions of waste to energy that is kind of spoken about world over, God save us, if we even look at it, 65% of our waste is organic waste. What will you burn to get energy from that? Why would you even want to adopt that kind of a solution, right? But that has picked up momentum in the country as well. How many plants are sitting idle now? Solutions have to be very, very localized. When I say localized, we cannot just blindly follow a solution that worked well in the West. It's not going to work for India. We'll need to fine-tune it to make it, acclimatize it for India, because the challenges we face, the other countries can't even imagine, right? So that's where my concern is. What kind of solutions are we even talking about? These brands insist that you just incinerate. Where is incineration happening? Sitting in India. India is one of the biggest importer of textile global waste. India is. Why? Why can't they recycle their fabric there? The cost of recycling their fabric is way higher than cost of shipping it over in containers overseas and dumping it in India, right? So what solution are we talking about? These huge brands that talk about sustainability, oh yeah, we are sending it to recycling plants. What is the carbon footprint you are adding to? Why can't you recycle it in your own country? Oh, our wages are quite high. Our labor laws don't allow us to operate the way India does. India does a huge recycling sector in the back end. In Panipat, there's this huge factory. These ladies just sit, they have this shredder machine. What do you mean by shredding also? Like a brand new, beautiful garment comes, a tear, throw. They just rip. It's not even shredding, I'm just putting a tear in the garment and throwing it. And that gets recycled into yarn, and that again becomes the fabric. Now that at one time was very, very informal, now there is a very amazing formal industry today. Only India can offer that, right? Why? Cost of labor is low. Low doesn't mean exploitation. Low means as long as I'm able to pay dignified wages to that person, and I ensure I don't exploit the financial condition of that person. Be fair. Growth has to be across stratas of the society. It can't be one strata of society benefiting. A person who is shredding that garment to the person who is stitching a garment. Everybody should get fair wages. All the manufacturing, the garment manufacturing companies that we have here, are they governed by laws? They are. But at the same time, there are many companies that would sack a lady when she becomes pregnant. Don't the labor laws apply there? But does it mean she won't come back? She will still come back because she needs that job. So textile waste, when we're talking about, we should not talk about it in isolation. How do we handle that waste? How do we even propagate that solution locally? We talk of chindi rugs, we talk of chindi garments, that's India. We have always had the DNA of repurposing material, right? We are warped by those vibrant colors of chindi rugs. That happens in India. That is textile repurposing. That is handling textile waste the most efficient way, and that's an informal sector today. Solutions exist. We just need to scale them up. Today there is one more self-help group that is working in the north of India, where they are covering 900 villagers, and they are teaching them handloom weaving. That's actually third or fourth generation of handloom weavers. In between they gave up weaving, resumed again. In that there's a subset of weavers who are being taught only to work with textile waste. And we are sourcing it from where? From here. They are making chindi rugs. The starting point of waste generation comes here. And this. So these two ends of the spectrum are getting clubbed together, where we work with both pre and post consumer waste to make those rugs. Solutions are there. We just need to make it scalable, and when we make it scalable, we should be prepared that new issues will come up. That's where we need to think ahead. I take this step, how is this going to transform in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years? New social issues are bound to come up, and we need to keep that in mind. Otherwise, we are fixing a problem, we are not solving a problem. Right?
There is an addition to the top also, because we are importing a lot of waste from the abroad, right? So they will come and they will become yarn and they will become fabric.
Yes.
So to that fabric, the tradition is also there.
Yeah, so for us the input, right? Why is it that we are even importing? The problem again in India is, for the best, that's a very practical solution because it minimizes their cost. It is helping the recycling industry to thrive in India. Good. There's a huge carbon footprint, and it's a global problem, right? We are a flat world now, unfortunately. When it comes to Western problems, it becomes a flat world. And it's all a matter of convenience, because their labor laws don't allow them to work at the dollar value that our INR value can offer. So it works for them. At the same time, why do we struggle to handle our own waste? Because of the lack of consistent quality and quantity of waste. We don't have a formal routing of waste anywhere in our country, right? You go to most part of the country still doesn't segregate waste. So when we started working on Reimagined, right, we started with post-consumer waste. We were forced to switch up the cycle because we were not getting consistent quality. We were not getting consistent quantity as well. Very, very filthy garments given to us to upcycle. How can we even deal with that? Right? The hygiene content is very critical when we talk about creating any market. How do we even handle that? So it's not like we don't deal with post-consumer waste, but post-consumer waste is a very big issue to tackle because of lack of segregation and clean processes involved. Because the moment textile waste gets mixed with anything else, we can't really do much about it. That's the problem with India. So we also need to fix things at our household level. As India, if we really want to become self-sustainable, where we say, you know what, we don't want your waste coming to us, what will happen to all those industries and those jobs that have kind of got into place because of that import? Can we still supply them that by ourselves? We don't. So we also need to set right things on our home front. As India, as a Indian economy, as Indian consumers, what are we doing to aid the process? Why are we even dependent on the imported waste? So every solution has, we have to look at both sides of the coin again, right? So we can ban. What will happen to the jobs? Where will they go? You think if India stops, there is no Sri Lanka or Bangladesh? There is. So it is a vibrant economy. Competition is there everywhere. But competition at what cost? Right? So just again, fix versus solution. Look at the cascading and long-term impact of waste.
Thanks, Shailaja. There was, I think, a lot that we learned today, and especially the, the pre-consumer issue was quite a revelation. And I kept thinking, about how we grew up. For one thing is that in many Indian families, the mothers, their Kanjivaram saris, came to us. I mean, I'm still wearing my mother's saris, and so that too in pure fabric where there is no polyester or mixed fabric as she mentioned. And so I can envisage an end of life for such garments. And also I think when the babies were born in South India, you wear these the veshtis, the dhotis, which was cut up into nappies, which is so soft for the baby's butt. And now there is, I think, diapers, which is another waste problem. Again, incineration, mixing with other waste, all those kind of things, which are a great problem. So I think we really learned a lot, and we are going back as very conscious consumers. Yeah. So really, thank you for that. And I want Ravi to say a few words, and we have a little thing to give you after that.
No, there's lots, few words is there.
Okay. Yeah, what?
Well, thank you, Shailaja, for giving the insight on the textile. It is also one of the, because people, when they talk about waste, they always talk about plastics, wet waste and plastic.
Yes.
Textiles is not really considered as a waste. It's not even thought of. The simple fact that nobody really knows what happens. Of course, we use textiles used for many other things, and then finally it becomes such rags that you don't really bother. So, well, I had a lot of questions on that later, but really thanks for that. You're not talking about what you do at Reimagining.
No, it was not about textile waste, right? We do many things at Reimagining.
Yeah, you want to say a few words what? So, I have a product which I got from her actually. Can you all guess what it is? You can pass it around.
Don't pass it quickly. This look and
This is plastic. Plastic and
That's the material.
So anyway, that's a material, but what could it be? I mean, any idea? No? Okay. Shailaja, you want to enlighten them?
Let them see it.
Okay.
That means leather.
It's a layer. That's leather.
Okay. Yeah. So I think we have a few answers.
And that
LDP,
is,
plastic, this is wool.
record that when Composite leathers. So you all agree it's leather, right? And that one?
Traditionally,
Mixture of.
old times is like
So this one, you have the rice bags. Okay. So it's woolen yarn which has been embroidered on a rice bag. And this, what all of you said is leather, is actually tyre tube based. So this is what we do at Reimagine, where we work. Now this is a post-consumer waste we are talking about. That's also a post-consumer waste, right? So what we do at Reimagine is what gets dumped as waste before it reaches the landfill. We pull it back. The reason why I'm saying before it reaches is once it's there, even how much ever you separate, try separating, it's not possible. So you have these waste aggregators in every place. So we locally source different types of waste and we repurpose them and make products which have a utility element to it. Right? So that's what we do at Reimagine. Think, nothing needs to end up in a landfill. You can consume without really using the natural resources. So 90% of the material that goes into any product that we make is waste, both pre and post-consumer waste. That's what we do at Reimagine.
So online, where can they find you?
Online is Rimagined.com, RIMAGINED. So when you talk about textile waste, right, we also have an apparel range, upcycled apparel, which comes from here for us, the garment manufacturers. Because what happens is, the garment manufacturers procure the fabric in bulk. They are just given the design and the directive, this color, this size, so many pieces, stitch it for us and make it in bulk. So they are left with, again this was a revelation to me, because when I thought they're left over, I thought it might be some half a meter, 1 meter kind of a thing. Because the first set of apparel that we made, it was from denim, where we got the small triangular bit piece or maybe half a meter stained and all. First set, so that was my idea of even pre-consumer fabric waste. The second round of garments that we got 15 meters, 20 meters. It's called waste for them because of the scale of their operation. They don't have any use for the 15-20 meter of fabric. Textile, what is waste for them? We created an apparel range from that. Right? That is textile waste we are talking about. So we source our denim. So we work a lot with denim where we make bags and patchwork quilts and all. That again is a combination of pre and post. Post-consumer, the quantity and the quality we get is very limited. Whereas we get tons of it from the fabric makers. Fabric. You see that we are able to source waste from brands refuse to give anything to us. Unsold also, they will not give it to us. They will not give. So we get a lot from you. Earlier we were also sourcing stitched pairs of jeans. Retailers would throw it away, right? So we will actually pick it up from the aggregators. They give it to a waste aggregator. Now the waste aggregator can give it to the footpath guy. He will, or if the footpath guy is not picked up, he'll go to the shredder. So we used to collect it from the waste aggregator. Proper pairs of jeans. So there is waste. That waste also we touch upon. Waste is there everywhere. Now it's up to us what we want to do with it. How we want to work with it.
Spoken of